Welcome, and good morning. I'm so glad you're here today with us. But I'll tell you, the whole idea behind vision alignment, vision alignment is here to help people to understand how important it is that their core beliefs, their core values are aligned with their mission, their vision. Their vision is very important for us all to know what our vision is. And today's special guest is Krister Ungerbock. And he has a great vision. He is aligned with his core values, his core mission with that vision. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Krister, and he will tell us a little bit more about what it is that he does.
Hi there. How are you, Brian? Great to be here.
Oh, it's nice to have you. So tell me a little bit about your story. Just if you would, take as much time as you need and tell the audience about your story. And I'm going to go away for a little bit and leave you to talk.
All right. So I guess about 5 years ago, I found myself at the YMCA signing up for a gym membership. And a woman asked me the question that changed the course of my life. She asked, "Who is your emergency contact?" And I broke down crying because in this moment I had no one. And previous to that, I was a CEO of a company. We built $100 million in shareholder value. So I was fairly successful in business. I started reading business books when I was 12 years old. And I looked in the mirror at the YMCA and I realized that I was a leader without followers. And I started to go on a journey. So what happened in the 2 weeks leading up to that moment at the YMCA, I had walked out on the CEO job of the company that I helped build and loved. And then 2 weeks later, my wife walked out on me. So there I was at the YMCA with no one. And I looked back and I said, I've been reading all these books about leadership and communication and going to the right business schools. And I said, what did I miss? And so I went on a journey to look for the leadership secrets that were really across both business and personal life, to find the secrets that had eluded me all those years. And I found myself, I kind of purposely set aside all the business books and purposefully surrounded myself with people that I would have previously judged as kind of far out or different, with different perspectives. A lot of those people were kind of, I would have called their advice woo-woo psychobabble back when I was a CEO. Today, I just call them often people from California. But it was there that I discovered these secrets that we call talk shifts. And we wrote a book about it. We actually wrote the book 4 or 5 times to make it really perfect. And it came out in October. And we're already starting to get amazing response on Facebook. We've already sold out our first order of 1,000 books, and we just ordered another 5,000. So it's amazing to see the people who are commenting on Amazon and on the Facebook posts about how it's transforming their lives. People are actually tearing up while reading a business book, which was partly part of my intention. You talked a little bit about vision, and my vision with this book was to use business as a force to transform 10 million marriages, leaders, and lives. And the reason for that is I felt that there were many people like myself, successful business leaders, often men, who will read 20 business books before they read a single book on relationships or parenting. And I say that everything I learned about transforming marriages and parents and leaders came from Mary Poppins. And so the business leadership and the business communication tools that are in the book are the spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down. But all these tools are framed in a way that they can work equally well as leadership in a business or leadership in the context of a family. And that was really my intention from the beginning. And with all the books that we read, that we create together, our kind of guiding principle, because this is about vision, is everything we do is it's a blank, but it's really something about blank. So this is a leadership book, but it's really a book about relationships. And that's really what's kind of driving, I think, a lot of the interest in the book.
So in the book, how do you help how do you help couples stay engaged, stay married?
Well, I think the first step, and this is interesting, there's a lot of the people for one of the Facebook ads we're running tend to be women who are responding to it. And I get about a comment a day saying, why is it that you're putting the onus on women to kind of read the books about self-help and whatever, because men don't read? And so there are a lot of angry women out there who've probably been hurt by a man who just refused to read relationship books, or would eye roll when they would go to marriage counseling or whatever. And this is really getting at the core of what the research shows is generally women tend to read with a bit more frequency than men. But then also men tend to read business books, not books by marriage counselors or communication about being a better parent. And so one of the keys that we're doing is we've created a video book, which is, so in addition to a physical book, I have one here somewhere. Yeah. So there is a physical hardcover book you can get on Amazon or on the website. But the really powerful experience is the video book. And so what many people are saying is, well, what do I do about if my husband or my spouse or my adult children, if they don't read or they don't enjoy reading? Well, we created this video book where two people, even with kids as young as 7 or 8 years old, can watch it together and experience it together. And what we're seeing is that there's, even if two people were laying in bed side by side reading the same book, the same chapter of the same book, it doesn't have the same experience as if the author, myself in this case, is actually speaking the book, and you can see the emotion and passion and the inflection of how these specific fill in the blanks phrases and powerful questions and exercises get executed in real life. And so as part of that, what we find is this video book it really allows people to enter in together. And even I say that there's no age that's too young to involve and give your children the gift of a new way of communicating with each other, right? So, I mean, the divorce rate has kind of been hovering around 60% for the last 30 or 40 years since it's really been tracked, or maybe 50 years, whatever it is. And nothing's changing. And what I found in my journey is that the reason why people chose not to follow me was my heart was in the right place, but my words were not. And what if the key to transforming our relationships was as simple as changing our words? And I had, the book is also informed by another experience. I had the unique opportunity to learn to lead in French and German as an adult. So after September 11th, I moved to Germany. I moved to Paris, actually, to open businesses in France. And then 2 or 3 years later, open businesses in Germany. And I had to learn these new languages from scratch. And what I found is I was so present and conscious of the words that I was using when I was learning a new language. And I actually spoke very differently when I spoke those languages. I spoke there was one experience I had where I was talking to my French teacher in Belgium, and we actually laid out, like, if I wanted to ask an employee to work late and I wanted to do it in a very strong way, how would I say it? And then how would I say it a little bit softer and a little bit softer and a little bit softer? And so we had like 5 or 6 levels of how to say it in different levels of kind of compassion, or more aggressive way, or a more softer way. The interesting thing was when I moved back to the United States and I became CEO, I didn't actually change my English words. When we speak in our native language, it's so unconscious and so habitual. And this is the critical thing, that unlike when many people read a book and they read it by themselves, this is a book about language, and it's about language that creates connection between people. And it's also about language that repairs disconnection between people. Well, what happens is we often need someone who can see us and hear our words, the words that we don't even realize that we're speaking. And that's how we accelerate our own transformation. So whether that's someone at work, a boss or a coworker, or a child or a spouse, or even a close friend, entering into a talk shift together is really, and using the video book often is a great way to do that, is really the key to transforming relationships and ultimately transforming our communication.
Yeah, that sounds like blind spots that we have are caused somehow because of our language and the use of our language and the use of our words. It makes a big difference in how the world perceives us, and none of that, how we perceive ourselves, right?
Yeah. Absolutely, man. You were in IT sales for many years. I was a tech CEO, and you probably have heard this as well. I had experience with my now wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. It was about a month ago. We just got married, and she said to me, "Do you think I'm slow?" Well, it was kind of late on a Friday night. I'm like, I'm not even going. I'm not even going into that one. You know, like maybe there were a couple glasses of wine going on. I'm like, I'll park that one and come back to it tomorrow. Now, admittedly, before the talk shifts, I probably would have dug into that. But in any case, what we did is the next day I asked her, I said, what did you mean by that when you said, do you think I'm slow? And she said, well, you asked, does that make sense a lot? Mm-hmm. And coming from IT, you know this, right? I was trained in like the late 1990s. I was a software engineer. They said, hey, if you're in a meeting with business people, just ask, does that make sense? Because often, you know, hopefully they'll say, no, I didn't quite understand that acronym or whatever you're talking about. Yeah. And the interesting thing what that does is, assuming we're in meetings where people, that's actually in and of itself could be a talk shift, is we're basically creating a feedback loop where if people say, no, it doesn't make sense, we start to kind of learn over time. Like, oh, okay, I need to kind of speak a little differently. But in this particular case, and we had been dating for 18 months when she asked this. And I said, oh, well, I told her the story about how somebody told me in IT 20 years ago to say, does that make sense? Well, she perceived that as I thought that she was slow. I would say things, and now I said it all the time, right? And so the first thing we said is the talk shift to say, well, whenever I say, does that make sense? What I really mean is, am I making sense? And so, but you take that another level deeper, is over 18 months, you know, she's a very smart woman. She's very successful in business. And over 18 months of hearing me say, does that make sense? It started to actually impact whether her own self-image, or at least her image of how I thought of her, right? So this is a great example of how words can erode a relationship and can even erode another person's self-image over time. Now, so here's the crazy thing about the habitual and blind spot of it. I said, let's make a game of it. Every time I say, does that make sense? Just count 1, 2, 3. I wonder how long it's going to take us to get to 100. 1 week later, 33. And we're not even living together at that time full time, right? This is just the time where, you know, 50% of the time we're together. 33.
Wow.
When we hit about 15, I said, wow. We actually were talking about it. Like, there was a feedback loop every single time I said, does that make sense? And 33 times later, after a week, I'm still saying, does that make sense? And I'm the language expert. So if I, with 33 points of feedback, am still saying, does that make sense? How frequently are you saying things that are causing people to have reactions that you didn't intend?
Yeah, and you just don't know it.
You have no idea.
That's the big thing.
The vision for this video book, and I've had stories from readers, strangers who've reached out to me saying, I've been trying this stuff. Like, one woman told me a story about how she did it with her 6 and 7-year-old children. Talk shift number 5. They were like being loud, and she used talk shift number 5 with them. And she said, like, not only did her 7-year-old son stop doing what she wanted him to do, but he even went over to his sister and started getting her to stop doing the same thing. And so the important thing of this video book is when you watch it together, you can actually enlist your entire family as observers of our language. Say, hey, mom, dad, talk shift number 9, you know, we don't, let's not use the word should, or let's not use, so all of these tools are very simple fill in the blanks rules. Some of them are say this, not that. So replace the word should with let's or consider. And they're very simple tools that often all it takes is one of these 22 talk shifts to make a significant shift in our relationships and in our communication.
Okay, so you talk a lot about this video book. I'm intrigued to know more about it. So are there 22 stories that line up with the videos and the stories and the actual items you talk shift? How does that work?
So yeah, there's 2 things. I mean, think of it, it's an audio book, but it's actual video. So we actually captured the audio book at the same time. But you know, there's a pretty strong research that like 60 to 70% of people are visual learners, right? So because the talk shifts are specific phrases, anytime I'm mentioning those, of course you hear them beyond the physical book, you hear them in the voice that they were intended, you know, the inflection that I intend, but then they appear on screen, so you get the visual kind of, I say like a good video book burns big ideas into your brain with visuals, but a great video book burns big ideas into your soul with emotion. So in addition, you see some of the, there were some times that I got somewhat passionate and a little bit emotional during the book in some of the more emotional stories. The other thing that we included is there's a significant amount of content that was not in the book. So there's bonus content that, really kind of takes the written word or even the spoken word to a much deeper level.
Yeah, so I've seen some of your videos online on your website. Phenomenal job. I mean, I'm really impressed with your speaking ability and your videographer. They did a phenomenal job of putting that together. So that's very impressive. So I'm assuming the rest of the book is similar to that, right?
Well, the speaking videos, those are highly produced. So I've been fortunate to have an amazing video production team. Because of the degree, as you can imagine, the budget to produce a highly impactful 6-minute video is often the same budget to do a highly impactful 4-hour video book. So it takes some of those concepts, but it is kind of like each chapter is only 10 minutes long. So each chapter is almost kind of like a self-contained TED Talk. I'm speaking in many ways as I would if I was on stage.
Okay.
So you do get the emotion and the kind of the feel of kind of an onstage experience, albeit from a video studio. And then there's what happens like is if I'm telling a story there's a story in chapter 1 about a leader who saved the life of one of his employees, and the employee went to the hospital. So there's kind of video of like an ambulance or somebody walking through the hospital. It just keeps it more visually engaging for people who maybe and well, I won't say people who have attention span. I think we all in today's day and age have an attention span challenge. So that's really the intention. And the other reason is this video book. When people get the video book, have you ever read a book and you're like, you get to chapter 9 and you're like, oh, I wish Bob had this one chapter. So people who get the video book also get permission to share individual chapters with people in their life. So let's say there's one. So one chapter 9, for example, is about how to create autonomy. And many people who are micromanagers don't even realize that they're micromanagers. So, and we give people specific scripts for how to introduce a chapter to someone in their life. So let's say like, I want to send chapter 9 to my boss and have a conversation about micromanagement. So you could just, if you buy the video book, you can send that one chapter, either the ebook version of the chapter or the audio or video. And you can share with them and use that one chapter of the book to spark a talk shift in your relationship with your boss, coworker, spouse, adult child, whoever it may be.
That is very useful. I mean, that's a real tool that people will have. So Dave Kipperton's got some great things to say here. In first of all, with what you said about words change worlds. That's very true. And then he also goes into a little bit of talks about your insights into how we create misunderstandings, and I think he's spot on with that as well. So that'll be interesting to get and to be able to view your book, whether it be online or just regular with the videos. It's very, very helpful to us all to be able to have that resource. I mean, I've never heard much about that. Where did you come up with the video book idea?
So let's say it started from kind of the genesis was 3 things. One is I wanted it to be a solution, not a book, right? And too often a book kind of like I read it. So I really wanted to create something that was a solution to a problem, which is troubled communication in a troubled relationship at work or home. Then second, it was, because the research shows that women tend to be the people who read more frequently, especially these types of books, and that divorce is initiated twice as frequently by women as men. And there's also some research by the world's top researcher in marriage and divorce that I think his words were, I'm going to get them slightly wrong, but essentially the essence was the number 1 predictor of happiness in a relationship is the man's behavior. And he got in a lot of trouble for that, but he just said that's what the data shows. So the challenge is that we as men, we don't read the relationship books. So how do we solve that problem? So that was one of the reasons for the video book, is, allowing people to experience it together. And then the kind of the impetus was, the most troubled relationship I had in my relationship was my father, who was the founder of our company, where I ultimately became CEO. And we had a 30-year toxic relationship, starting from when I was like 12 or 13 years old. And I read him a manuscript of the book about a year and a half ago. And about 3/4 of the way through, he's 77 years old. He said, I had no idea how my words were hurting you. And I said, how could we create this experience where two people enter into something together and have that same transformative aha moment of how their words are hurting each other? And then the final thing was, I was reading to my our nanny. I was reading one of the parts of the book that I was kind of, that was probably some of the proudest writing that I've ever done. And I was like tearing up, like tears were streaming down my face as I was reading it. And she said, Krister, even with an audiobook, there's no way a printed book will show that emotion. And an audiobook doesn't even show it either, because you can't see your face. She said, have you considered doing this on video? And so that was really what we set out to try to find a video crew. And interestingly enough, we found there's a crew who's done 3 or 4 of these. And it's a fairly innovative idea, so I'm really excited. And it seems that people are reacting to it pretty well. I should be clear, we're offering like a 50% discount on it, because it is not yet available. It will be coming out shortly before Christmas, and anyone who purchases it before it's fully available will get a significant discount on it.
So when you buy the book, you get videos as well?
Yeah. So if people go to talkship.com, they can grab the book, and then they get they can upgrade and add the video book. What we expect is, many people on Amazon are saying that it's a great reference book, that people will. We did write it as a reference book so that people could be like, oh, I'm going into a conversation, because if you have a frustrating boss, it's probably not going to be the last time in your career that you'd be like, I wonder, what was that, chapter 9, how about autonomy or micromanagement? So it is a great reference book, but people can, the thought is that many people don't want to read. They want the audiobook, they want the video book, so they'll experience it there, and then they'll use the physical book as a reference kind of for years to come.
Well, I got to tell you that is, for me, this is something totally new. I've not heard of video books being done before. So, I wrote a book myself, but I mean, it's mind-bending to think that you can do that through a video. So it's a totally different concept. I think that's phenomenal that you've been able to do that. How long did it take you to do that?
Well, we wrote and rewrote the book 5 times over the course of 5 years. And I got feedback. The manuscript that I read to my father, which caused him to say I had no idea, he's like, I almost published that book last year under a different title. But I had a French guy, so a stranger, and I just asked him for feedback. I even sent him an email. I dare you to call my baby ugly. Just like, give me the harshest feedback you can. And he did.
Really?
He gave me really harsh feedback by email, so much so that I was reading his email and I was like, wow, this guy is a really angry person. And he texted me and he said, hey, can we jump on a call? I gave me his feedback, and he said, I just wanted to rip out the first chapter, and then I wanted to give it to everyone that I know, because it's one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life.
Oh, wow.
I was holding on to something that could be so transformational, but I knew it wasn't good enough. So I was fortunate to, after that moment, find some collaborators who've been behind over 100 New York Times bestsellers to help me rewrite the book. Part of the reason why it works as a video book is because much of the way it's written speaking directly to the reader. And so imagine if I'm looking at a camera and I'm speaking words that were written directly to the reader, then it feels like a conversation between us. And so you can feel how these questions, it's not just imagining how they could change an interaction with someone else. You can actually feel directly how they actually cause a change in how you feel, because I'm asking you those questions via video yourself. And that I think is the real power of a video book, when it's written in a way that it can be used in that way. So it's kind of a very subtle art, I guess, let's say.
Huh. So tell me about your dad. How's your relationship with your dad now?
It's good. It was actually on launch day. October 6th was the day the book launched on Amazon. And I actually took a copy of the book and I buried it at my mom's grave. A friend of mine said, "What are you going to do for launch day? Are you going to do a big party?" And I said, "No, I'm going to actually take a lawn chair." And unfortunately, it was very nice weather. I live in St. Louis, and I read it out loud to my mom at her grave. And because if she and our family had had these tools 20 or 30 years ago, we would have all been happier husbands with happier children and happier wives and happier lives. And I wanted her to hear those. And I invited my father to come up for lunch. He came and we had a nice little chat. And I remember I asked him, what would it be like if we were friends? And that night we actually did some things that friends would do for the first time.
Wow. That is incredible. Absolutely incredible. I love it. You've done such a great job, and to convey that to other people with either your book or with the videos, the video book, I mean, is absolutely phenomenal. So I can't tell how thankful I am that I met you. You know, this has been great, and to get a chance to ask you some of these questions and to find out more about you and what you're able to do. This is really, I really appreciate you coming on. So again, for our listeners, if you're listening to this on live, put in a hashtag live. If you're listening on replay, put in a hashtag replay. But if there are questions you have for Krister, please, put them down, put them in the comments. We'll come back to them and we'll definitely answer them whenever the time is right. But I'm very appreciative of having Krister on today. And I want to see if there's anything else that maybe we haven't touched on yet that we should touch on before we go here. We've got a couple minutes.
Well, tell me about, is there any relationship in your life that you've had a challenge with? Do you really want to spend the next couple of minutes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, there's got to be some that I have issues with or have been struggling with. So for me, I would say the biggest issue for me to move forward is to continue to be successful, is to do more of what I'm doing, do more of these videos, do more of these, interviews with people like you, and be able to have a chance to tell my story, where I've been able to get through some stuff that is preventing me from, I think it's preventing me right here. It's preventing me from moving forward and making myself more successful. So, what does success look like? Well, for me right now, success is having a beautiful wife, and we've been married 30 years. We have 3 great children. They're 25, 23, 21. So they're old. They're in college, and they're all doing well. They all love us, and we're very, very blessed.
So what are you talk about, part of the talk shifts are not just the words we say to others, they're the words we say to ourselves. What are the words that you say to yourself that maybe hold you back?
Oh, yeah. So I have, I definitely have a problem with that. So I know I'm being held back. I know I'm kind of stuck where I am because I've not, I've not expanded my circle of influence to people like you, or to people like to other people that that are much more prominent, if you will. So I've kind of stuck myself in this hole. Maybe it's fair, maybe it's not fair. But I think that having done that has prevented me from, being more well known, from being more pervasive with my message and all of that. So, my message is important, and I just feel like it's a point where I need to do something about it to get it out. And
so tell me about a time where you were courageous, that you kind of were inspiring to you, your own actions inspired you.
my own actions inspire me. So
yeah, it's something that you were courageous or you're really proud of.
well, I'm really proud of having written a book. So this book that I was able to put together, it's not something that I ever would have done, but the launch for this book was at my house, and it was by far the best day of my life.
Yeah. So what is it? What is it about that you felt that you were most proud of, that was most courageous for you?
Putting my thoughts and my words, my thoughts down on paper. I mean, in just a Facebook post that I did yesterday, talking about my mental health, and how I felt, I felt anxious and insecure. That to me, and that level of courageousness, it's not easy to share that with people. But when I see the comments come back from people and how they're say, I've had those too, and it's helpful for them to be able to know that someone else has the same experience. So that to me is one of those areas where being courageous has been helpful.
So if you were 10 times more courageous than you are, what would you do?
If I were 10 times more courageous than what I am today, what would I do? I think I would write another book. I think I would go speak to, I don't know how, but I mean, I would go speak to organizations, larger organizations, and tell my story to other people.
So what is the next step for you?
I think it's to reach out to bigger. I don't know if it's bigger organizations. Different organizations to get to a point where I'm expanding my footprint, my message to other people. I think that's the next step.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you've written one book, so you've had the courage to do that. So you certainly have the courage to do it again.
Yeah. I need to do it. I know that's one of the words we're not supposed to say. We don't say need, but I should. You don't say should either.
I will do it.
I will. So, yeah.
Even better is, and I think it's Talk Shift 20, actions don't speak, words do, is there's that phrase that's I will. What's that first step to writing a book? Maybe it's writing an outline or writing the back cover or whatever, who you're writing it for. I will do X by this date, put a time on it, by Friday at noon or whatever, pick something really small, 2 or 3 days. And when we speak the words to ourselves and we speak our commitments to others in very concrete words, using the framework in Talk Shift 20, I think it is, it's more likely that action will follow. So how did this conversation feel? It was kind of straight out of Talk Shift number 6.
Well, it really felt kind of strange for me because I wasn't expecting it. But I mean, it felt good because now I reiterated. I've said what I'm supposed to do. I said supposed to. I said what I need to. I said what I will do.
See, these are the things where we hold ourselves back. I need to do this. I should do this. Well, I had a story one time. I know we're running out of time, but I had a story one time. I tell it in the book. Actually, no, I think I cut it from the book. It was in the previous version. So, it is there. I can't forget. There's been 5.
Yeah, I know how it goes.
So we had to cut some good stuff out. So, but I was in this workshop, and it was about teaching people to make requests. And they said, they wanted to do it like physically. So they said, well, walk up, grab the person by the arm, and make your request. And I was like, I've been leading people for 20 years. And I think the facilitator saw the look on my face, like, this is kind of weird. And she looked at me directly and said, looked at me directly and said, if you can't think of a request of someone else, think of a request that you make of yourself. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. I always been trying to work out, get in shape. And so I stepped back, I grabbed the person's arm and said, you should go work out. And they said, and then the next step was, well, how do you feel about that? And the woman was like, the last thing I wanted to do was go work out. You told me I should go work out. She goes, why don't you take 2 steps back and try it and say it like you would to your 8-year-old son? I took 2 steps back and I said, hey, buddy, let's go work out. We'll feel so much better. Instead of saying, I need to write the book or whatever, talk to yourself like a friend would. Hey, let's write the outline for this book. It's going to be so amazing. It's going to change lives. And here's the kind of lives it's going to change. Let's go do that. And that is the talk shift of how we can speak to ourselves differently.
Yeah. Wow. That right there is worth the price of admission. So, and there is no price for admission. But I'll tell you, I am so appreciative of having you on today. You helped me a lot. Hopefully you've helped a lot of other people as well. So I look forward to continue the conversation, to continue the relationship with you. And I thank you for being on, and I'm grateful. Grateful is this is the best time of year to be grateful, and I am grateful for you. So thank you.
I'm grateful for you as well. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
All right. Take care, Krister.
Take care.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon. And as always, remember, keep one eye on the road.